Back on Sports 225, and even though we're conducting this interview before the SEC tournament begins, and it's possible, well, it's not possible, it's definite that LSU's at least first game outcome will have been determined, there's still no reason not to catch up with first-year LSU basketball coach Johnny Jones, who I was glad at the end of your news conference after the Ole Miss game the other day, I think it was Glenn Gilbo asked you, and he said, all right, Johnny, can I ask you now, if we had told you in the preseason that you'd have this many victories overall and be 9-9 in the league, and you finally admitted, yes, you would have been very happy to take that.
Oh, absolutely. I think when you look at the departure of some of the guys from last year, the impact that they'd made on the team, especially your post guys, and Justin Hamilton and Storm Warren and Malcolm White, who'd made an impact inside, and then you lose your perimeter guy in Turner, who had an impact as a starter, a great perimeter player, and then John Isaac. And when you lose that caliber guys and you get a job in April and you have just a core guys coming back, you really don't know what to expect. And to see how they ended up last year and to see where these guys were this year and the way that they've played out through this season, very impressed and excited about these guys, and I love coaching them.
Now, they have obviously bought into everything from day one. But was it easy? And what I mean by that was not necessarily easy to coach them, but I mean, whatever you did from the start, they've done. You know, you've told them to do, they've done. It seems like, at least from us looking on the outside looking in.
We've been very blessed and fortunate just coming in.
Right.
I think initially when the first time I had an opportunity to meet him that Sunday night prior to the press conference on Monday, had my family in there and told them about the family atmosphere, the environment, and how we're an extension of their home, what I represent and what I stand for. And I think when they came to the press conference that day, and I explained to them like I told them that night, but in front of others, that wasn't waiting for next year. I wasn't waiting to get supposedly my group in here. They are my guys. They are part of LSU. This is our basketball team, and we're going to go at it. We're going to take that approach, and I think we've been able to do that from day one. We've dealt with whatever issues we have in the same manner if we would be 5 or 6 years down the road as well, and I think they've respected that.
Now, when you say dealt with issues, is it right to use the corny old phrase, tough love with Anthony Hickey, especially in the early part of the season?
Well, I think anytime you come into a new job and you have certain standards or in the way that you handle things, I think you have to really make sure that you take that approach. I think in taking that approach, I think Anthony understood that I really cared about him as a person. I wanted him to get better, not just on the basketball floor, but off it as well, and looking and trying to help Anthony long term. And I think when that somewhat registered to him, and I think he have a better understanding of it now, that he's embraced it. And I mean, Anthony's one of those guys, he'll text, he'll call, and we have a tremendous relationship now, but I think it took that type of approach really to, one, get his attention and for him to have a real keen understanding of the way that we were going to do things and what we could and could not do.
No, I was impressed. I mean, you laid the hammer down on him, and because he's good. He reminds me, and you're old enough to remember too, Tiny Archibald, a smaller version of Tiny Archibald. Do you buy that?
Well, I didn't have an opportunity to appreciate Tiny as much, watched him play some, but I really like Anthony. I think he has that combination of not only fast, but he's extremely quick as well, and that's a rare combination. Sometimes you got guys that have some quickness, about them, but Anthony has a lot of speed, and I'm very encouraged, when you have a guy like him out there on the floor, some great things can happen for you because he has the strength as well.
Well, he creates a lot of havoc on defense, and for people saying Tiny Archibald, Nate Archibald led the NBA in scoring and assists for the Kansas City Kings in the late 70s. I know that's a stretch, but that's who he reminds me of. But I think, and it brings me into a subject I wanted to ask you about before we talk about other people on your team, which is there's so much criticism about the SEC this year. The SEC's down, they're this or that, and that may be true. But there's a lot of really good guards in this league, and he's a really good guard, but everybody, it seems, has a really, really good guard or two. I mean, like Relaford at Alabama and Pressey at Missouri, and the kid who came in here the other day, Marshall Henderson, and on and on. I'm right, aren't I, in that?
Absolutely, but I'm not one who subscribe or buy into the league's not very good. I think you can look around the country and see that others leagues are extremely competitive. I think we had, when you talk about the youthfulness of this league, we have some young guys in there, and obviously coaches had to do a tremendous job in terms of trying to prepare their team during the non-conference schedule. But we get into conference play, and I think you can look across the board how competitive it's been in each of those games. And you look up at the top now how they're bunched up, and Florida's only separated by a couple, as great as they are, a couple of victories in terms of winning first place. But I think we have tremendous guards. I think the league is set to be really good for a long time. When you look at Relaford and those guys that you just mentioned, great players and have had tremendous impact on a tough season. And these guys are carrying their team, and Cartwell Pope and Marshall Henderson, just the way that they've played, and all these guys who couldn't be back next year.
And you mentioned Florida. I mean, talk about the depth at guard that they have and the frontline talent. But where I was going with that even one step farther is, this is, like I said, conception that the SEC is bad. And if you look at the RPI and you watch it this year, and you can form certain opinions. But I'm saying to you right now, when the round of 16 comes out, there's going to be probably 2 SEC teams because it's that kind of year. I can't tell you which 2 they're going to be because guard play, as you know, is the most important thing in the NCAA tournament.
You said when around the 16 out of the 60.
Yeah, when the 64 gets down to 16.
Right.
I'm predicting right now, totally illogically, that there'll be 2 SEC teams left.
Well, I think that's a strong possibility. And when it gets down to 4, I think if teams are playing well and like they're capable, obviously you could get teams in the Final Four because you look at Florida and they have the ability to score. They can really defend. They can play a lot of different ways. They've got size. They have strength. Anything can happen. But Missouri is that way. I think Missouri's really structured to be that type of team. I really like Tennessee's team as well. They're very strong and very competitive and can score in a lot of different ways and can defend and mix it up a little bit. So I really like our league. I think they're really good, strong, solid teams in the league, and I just think they've gotten a bad rap this year just because there wasn't a Kentucky who was sitting there undefeated or one-loss type team.
And that in itself is kind of weird, having Kentucky not be the usual Kentucky, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when you look, and they're only 2 games back as well, out of first place, and they really knock off the best team in our league. The last regular season game there at home, I think it says a lot about what Calipari's done with this team, especially when you go through the injuries of Nerlens Noel being hurt. To be able to regroup his team like that, I think says a lot about what they've been able to do with the players that they have there at Kentucky as well.
John Calipari, the coach of Kentucky, owes everything to Johnny Jones. I'll tell you about that in a minute, too. Johnny Jones, this year's National Coach of the Year. I don't care how any of the voting comes out. What he's done this year has been unbelievable. I'm serious. We got to take this break on Sports 225. When we get back, we're going to talk about one of the great turnarounds of a player in LSU history, and I give this man a lot of the credit. I'm Lee Feinswog at Sports 225.